Scotland and England had been rivals since both countries came into being. To much of the world, Scotland was the junior member of the British Isles for much of the history of feudal Europe. Scotland had always been a somewhat powerful member of Europe, however, being able to invade England on many occasions. This rivalry continued through the age of exploration and into the first wave of colonization. This point in time was dominated by the Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, French, and English. All these nations established colonies in the New World. These colonies made their overlords extremely wealthy. This can best be seen when examining the Spanish, who literally took so much wealth from their colonies that they caused inflation and went bankrupt. While that may have been bad for Spain, every country in Europe at that time would love to have had that problem of having too much money. Since having an empire would most definitely mean gaining wealth, it's no wonder smaller nations wanted to take a piece of the New World pie. A prominent member of these takers was in fact Scotland. Scotland wanted to compete with the British and wanted to create their own colonial empire. However, unlike England, Scotland lacked a large population and large navy, so it was hard to secure colonies and keep them safe. The other major hindrance for the Scottish was that they entered the colonial game relatively late and had to compete with already established colonies for the land, and as mentioned before, the Scottish couldn't exactly fight long drawn out wars with major powers. Let me take you back to a time when Scotland had colonies. Scotland's first attempt to colonise the New World was the founding of Nova Scotia in eastern Canada. The name is Latin for New Scotland and was Scotland's first attempt to colonising the New World, and was founded in 1621. The colony was founded by Sir William Alexander and consisted of only a few hundred Scots. By the time Nova Scotia was given to the French in 1632 in a treaty that ended the Anglo-French War, there were only around 70 colonists and 6 soldiers in the colony. The next colony the Scots set up was the colony of East New Jersey. This was a joint venture between the Scottish and the English. It was a mostly religious settlement made up of Quakers, Episcopalians, and Presbyterians. This colony was eventually absorbed into the English 13 colonies in 1702. Another small colony made by the Scottish was that of Stewarts, Carolina. This was a small settlement at Port Royal in 1684 and only consisted of around 148 Scottish inhabitants. They had settled on what was French and Spanish settlements from before. This small settlement angered the Spanish and the natives that were lined with the Spanish. After raids by the Scottish, the Spanish sent 150 men and were accompanied by their native allies and attacked the town. The Scots could only muster around 25 men to counter this attack, and the settlement was completely wiped off the face of the earth. However, this town would later again be settled by the British and would become part of the colony of South Carolina. The final colony the Scots made is probably the most infamous one. The Dariansham was a plan by the Scottish Crown to create a colony that could trade in both the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean. This colony would be on the Isthmus of Panama. Pretty much, the Scots had the idea of transoceanic trade long before the Panama Canal and realised this and decided to build a colony in order to capitalise on this potential trade. The hype around this colony was huge, and it got to the point where between 1/3 and 1/4 of all the money owned by the Scottish government and citizenry was invested into this colony. The colony, however, was a massive failure due to the natives and the Spanish attacking the colony and malaria taking a toll on the population. In the end, 2,500 people died, and all the money that was sent there was lost and bankrupted the country. This was the event that directly led to the Act of Union between Scotland and England, which formed the United Kingdom. This is the unfortunate story of Scotland, the lost empire of the Isles.